Welcome to Growth Architects, a podcast for tech entrepreneurs, product innovators, and marketing strategists. Whether you're searching for product market fit, exploring new growth channels, or trying to avoid common startup pitfall, this is where you'll find proven strategies to fuel your success. And now, let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Growth Architects. My guest today is Dmitry Dragilev. He's a serial entrepreneur who has built and sold multiple companies in the PR and SEO spaces. Some of them have been sold to Google or SEMRush. We got a lot to learn in terms of SEO, PR, and how to build a company that you can sell to a large company like Google. So, Dmitry, I'm very happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. This is, I love chatting about SEO and content anytime.
Well, what's nice about you is that you are both a specialist of a vertical like SEO and PR, but you are also a serial entrepreneur who has done multiple times the process of building a company and selling it. So with you today, I'm quite excited to discuss about everything we can cover in the 30 minutes of the episode. But before we dive deep into that, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us more about you?
Sure. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Like you said, I build software companies and sell them to other bigger companies. I have this bug of creating tools and apps all in the space of SEO and now LLMs and PR. And that's been my world for the last 15 years. Before that, I was a software engineer. And anytime anybody's mentioning SEO or content or ranking on Google or trying to get seen through PR, I always perk up and start chatting with people about that stuff. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to build 4 companies and have them acquired. And yeah, besides that, just I do a lot of CrossFit, I run, and spend a lot of time with my family, my kids.
Nice. Well, what I find quite unique about your profile is that you combine the technical skills with the marketing skills that you certainly needed to build this kind of companies. Would you say that the combination of these two is really what made you unique in your space?
I guess so. I mean, when I talk to my engineers now, I can actually think through logic. Like today, we're building this little tool right now about grading your title tag for your page and rewriting it. And so what we're dealing with is the fact that we're pulling the score from an API, and then afterwards we need to figure out why is that score so low or so high. And so what we're doing is feeding it into an LLM and saying, okay, figure out this score, this title tag, is this accurate? And using this criteria, deduce all the sub-scores. So thinking like that and figuring out like, okay, how to construct the right prompt, how to make sure, because LLMs, they're kind of like, they throw up and then they eat the same stuff. So it's like a lot of times it's like regurgitating its own stuff. So it's a lot of junk. And so what you want to do is make sure you have signal versus noise. So you have to feed it very complicated kind of like, solid model for determining a score for your title tag, and then have it feed back like what are the factors that are impacting and making that score that way, and actually check and show it the algorithm. Without knowing the algorithm or just mindset of a developer, it's harder to speak to the development team. So I feel like that helps. Certainly not a must, but it just helps.
Yeah, and would you say that SEO is perhaps one of the spaces where it's necessary to combine the marketing knowledge with the technical knowledge in order to succeed?
Yeah, I feel so, because if you're just a writer, it's very difficult for you to figure out how to rank on Google without understanding all the technical mechanics of ranking, right? So it's like, it's not just title tag. It's not even just the content. It's like, how fast does your page load and how is it built? Like, what technology is it built on? How does it load on a mobile device? Which browser on a mobile device? Just technical aspects of building the content in the page, or any kind of tools or products or solutions. Just useful to have some technical knowledge. Anybody who's listening to it who doesn't have it at all, you can certainly take a slew of different courses to try and understand it. But anybody building a business, I feel like, needs to have some technical expertise so that you can talk to your developer, you can talk to your designer, and and kind of work together.
I absolutely subscribe to that, because then, what you see a lot is that indeed SEO is not just about writing great text, but it's also understanding HTML, how to optimize, headers, betters, alt text of images and so on. But I'm curious to learn from you, what would you say it's the most, like, what kind of advice would you give to people that don't have this technical knowledge and are working in the world of SEO? What do you see actually as most recurring mistakes made, so to say?
Typically, when you're creating a product and you're trying to improve content ranking, the world of SEO really kind of, like, in my experience, has been, there's people that are trying to rank higher and grow their brand. They're like a consultant, or maybe they're a full-time head of content at a larger firm. They're trying to gain visibility. And now that gain visibility is on LLMs and on Google and on Bing. There are different places that you have to gain visibility. So what you're trying to achieve is much wider now. And so for people who are in that profession, like, they're trying to gain visibility for their company, their brand, technical knowledge kind of extends to the point where you're creating content and you need to know a lot about that content to have information gained. So Google now fronts up content that has something unique to share. And that uniqueness could be your analysis of the latest data that came out in your space, or your analysis of the latest trends that are in your space. But this is something unique that's not there. That's something that a lot of people need to focus on. So your technical knowledge is not necessarily of, like, I need to know how to code an app, or I need to know how to code this page together. Your technical knowledge needs to be technical knowledge about your space, whatever you're in, whether it's like one thing or the other. And now, if you're not in technical space at all, then your technical knowledge needs to be just to be able to talk to your developer and say, hey, this button needs to be here. This table of contents needs to be here. I need to have a collapsible element in my content. Like, all these little things. When you ask a developer, you need to understand what this entails and what kind of technical depth this gives the actual blog post. So if you add all these fancy images, it might look really nice, but it might slow down the page. So yeah, those are like the two types of technical things. One is, like, if you are actually creating content that's somewhat technical in nature, or it could be something specific, you need to know that and really create something brand new. Or you need to talk to your designers and developers. If you're creating an app, you're certainly in that second stage of, like, hey, you need to know, before writing the requirements and thinking about what you want to build and create, you need to understand how much time is going to take a developer to create something like that, how the logic of that is going to work, and really think like a computer. Like, how can you teach a computer to do these things? And there's a slew of fantastic products out there that don't even need a developer on your side to play around with. Like, Lovable is a fantastic product. It's very similar to Engineer GPT kind of thing, where you and me, let's say we don't have any coding expertise, we can just click a few buttons and create a dummy little app that does something for us. And it helps us think in a way, how a developer might think on our team. And so it might just help you out, if you're not a technical founder, to really create something basic and then share it with your developer and say, hey, I want something like this, but more in depth, or this or that.
Interesting. So what I hear you saying is that from the point of view of the marketer doing SEO, what's important to know, first of all, is that average content doesn't cut it anymore. So it's really about creating specific content and becoming a master of the industry where you are. And then second of all, it's about understanding the technical depth that your request in terms of, for example, blog posts might have on the tech side of what you're building. For example, you mentioned speed. There's certainly others as well that might have an impact in terms of technical aspect of what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. So just being
Yeah, I just want to ask you a follow-up question on this, because what I can also imagine a lot of people thinking here is that, okay, I need to be a master of of my industry and write specific content, but how do you make sure that you strike the right balance between being specific enough but also writing things that people search for, right? So for which there is traffic, there is interest, and knowing that, yeah, you kind of have to dive deeper and write something that no one else has been writing on.
Yeah, unique.
Yeah, right balance.
Well, most people, the way they do keyword research is they think of like, what would my customer look for? And so, I run one of my businesses, is a business called Topic Ranker. We find keyword research. We do keyword research for you. So it's a tool that finds low hanging fruit, easy to rank keywords. So what do I want to go after? I want to go, which keywords should I target or something like that. I might just, as a founder, say we got to rank for easy to rank keywords, right? Not knowing if there's a specific problem or issue on the search results. So I might blindly say, I want to rank for keyword tools, best keyword tools, or easy to rank keywords, right? And I'm just going to look up, I'm going to launch Ahrefs or SEMRush, these platforms, or some keyword planner tool in Google, and just look at the volume. I might even go to Google Trends or something like that. Look at the volume and just see what the volume is and say, okay, I want to just rank for it. And most people sort of do it like this. Like most people or organizations will say, well, the volume is about this. Now, if you have an SEO function, you might say, okay, the volume is 1,000 or 1,500 or 15,000 a month. And they have this weird metric that most SEMRush and Ahrefs and these tools give you is competition metric. Like, oh, the competition is low, the competition is high. And they have this little meter and there's a metric to it. But it's so arbitrary that you have no idea what actual problems there are on the search. Is there a title mismatch where like person's searching for a query and the stuff that's pumping up in the top 10, it doesn't match that exact search? Or maybe the pages load slow, or maybe the pages themselves are old, or maybe there's readability issues on the pages, or maybe there's all these other issues, right? And so what people should be doing is looking for these problems on the search, because when they find a problem and they find a few of them, that is a big signal that, hey, that search is starved and you need to optimize and create something that addresses that specific weakness. That specific weakness, again, could be the title doesn't match exactly what the person put in, or that the article is missing information that is not already in Google's search knowledge graph. So that means that it's just regurgitating stuff that's already there, nothing fresh, no fresh studies, no fresh perspectives, no original insights. That could be a weakness. There's lots of these different weaknesses. We find these weaknesses with the software, but any given like person who's an expert in their field or knows a bit about their topic should be able to Google that term, look at the first 10 search results, and figure out, for me right now, what are the problems and issues. I always tell them, pretend you're going to the court, like tomorrow. You have to prove your case. You don't have a lawyer. You're going to stand in front of the judge. And then you have to make a really good argument why you deserve to be in the top 10 results on Google for this keyword. What would you say to me? You can't tell me that you're the best at it. You just can't, because everybody else is the best at it too. And they already made it to the top of this search result. You have to give me more specific reasons why you think it's better. And you can't say I'm going to write a longer article or a better article. I need specifics. What are the problems with the search in this case? And so that is what I typically tell people. And that puts their perspective, and like this puts it in perspective for them. They're like, okay, well, tell me more about these weaknesses. So I tell them about like, here's a common thing, here's a common thing, here's a common thing. But that's what search engine optimization is. By definition, you're trying to optimize the search. If the search is already optimized, you don't need to go after it. Like if we're looking at it and we're honestly like, well, I don't know, I guess we could like make ours prettier, or maybe we can put like prettier infographics into ours. Just forget it. Just start looking at a different keyword,
I think it's very good advice. It's very actionable, very concrete, and quite contrarian actually, because often you hear just like, just make the article longer, right? Or if someone has title of like, these are the 9 best ways in which you can do XYZ, then make it 99, but it's very good piece of advice. So what you're saying is that I really like the analogy you struck. Like you should be the lawyer of your blog post and say, why should it rank better than the existing ones? And then you said that the path is usually not to say that yours is better, but to pinpoint what are the problems with the content that is now ranking. Like, for example, not entirely consistent with the query, or for example, old content that hasn't been updated. I think that's very good, very actionable.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love this stuff. So that's what I tell people is you have to be very specific and actionable with your strategy with this stuff. So you can't just kind of sort of be doing things and just hoping you rank. You need to know exactly what the weak points are and then go after them with your content.
Great. Yeah, great advice. Dmitry, before you made a connection with one of the companies that you built, one of the tools that you have built. I would now like to talk a little bit more about your story as an entrepreneur. So before we talk about the companies that you built, you started as a developer, you said, and then turned to SEO. What was fascinating for you about the SEO world, and what did you think was missing when you looked at it?
Yeah, so I was a software engineer. I moved to Silicon Valley because I was interested in starting a startup, and I didn't know anybody who was in startups. I knew Silicon Valley had a lot of startups in the area. I met somebody who was starting a startup and joined for free to help out and learned a bit about PR. And so that interaction of like just meeting this person and him needing somebody as an assistant, and the assistance needed to be reaching out to journalists on my own. I didn't have any skills, but he just said, well, here's a draft and you can write this out and send it. And I started sending him, and I started getting responses from some journalists. And I thought it was wild because usually you'd hire a professional PR person to send out emails. And here we were, just me and him sending emails out about what we were doing and getting responses. And it changed my thinking about you can just be doing a lot of this stuff on your own if you experiment enough. And I started learning, okay, well, if I send out these emails, these journalists respond. If I send out this type of email, this blogger will respond. What else can I do? And as I started gaining some expertise with PR, these PR mentions and features on their own were kind of one hit wonder, kind of like people would remember it, but it wouldn't really serve you onwards. Even worse than like a one hit wonder song where people would listen to the song over and over and over and over and again. But with a one hit wonder PR, it's like it's become old after a year. It's just sitting there. So I started getting strategic with it and trying to get these PR mentions to be links, and the links to point to a specific page where I wanted that page to rank on Google and start climbing. Because I knew that links would help the rankings. It wouldn't necessarily just drive it, but it does help it. And that was how I started with the PR approach. I wasn't sure how it would impact, but I just said, okay, we need to start building links to try and see if we can rank. And back then, things were just much simpler and easier. Google would rank you much faster because the PageRank algorithm was really highly dependent on links, and you could buy links on PBNs and all sorts of spammy sort of networks. They had these like boards where you could buy links, and I remember just trying out a whole bunch of different like weird tactics of trying to see if I could rank really fast in places. And we did have some success, but eventually we just kind of gravitated towards just usual PR approach, analyzing studies and data. That's where we kind of found a sweet spot. But that's how I got started in it. And then I just kind of stayed because everything just kept evolving. The algorithm has changed so much with 2, 3, sometimes algorithm updates per year for Google. The algorithm becomes more sophisticated, lots more studying. And I met somebody called Rand Fishkin, who's the founder of Moz, early on, and Moz was sort of like the first SEO software tool for SEOs. And I followed him all along. We've emailed and met in person, and he's taught me so much about SEO and how to improve your visibility. And now things are just so different. We have LLMs that we're trying to optimize for. So no longer are we improving visibility on Google. Now we're improving visibility on LLMs. So people aren't even sure about the terms to use for that. And some people say geo, which is generative engine optimization, but it kind of, I don't know, rings the wrong vibe because geo is like geographical.
Yeah. But that's definitely a topic that I would like to touch with you, right? Because here's some people wondering whether SEO is still a thing. On one side, even probably a little before artificial intelligence, there were some people that were not entirely happy with the results from Google. You hear people saying that in the last years, we got some of the worst results we got from Google with over optimization on pages. And some people are asking, like, is SEO, still a thing? Is it still a tactic worth pursuing? And now we got AI, right, which is doing his thing, research on your pages. And what it means is that sometimes you're delivered with a result, not even a list of pages that you can click, but just one final result. So it tends to be more of a black and white thing. You're either in or out. So I would like to ask you, what's your point of view on the evolution of SEO and in general the word of like optimizing pages to kind of get traffic?
I think SEO is still around. It's always been predicted with any kind of new technology. Like I think it's been like 15 or 20 times predicted that SEO is dead with Google's algorithms updates. Just endless predictions. At least over the 15 years I've been in this, it has always been that, hey, okay, SEO is dead. Now SEO is dead. Like we can't rank anymore. Things are just but SEO is actually still here. Now more than ever, companies engage in SEO activity, and it's actually used to inform the large language models, the LLMs, the ChatGPT that everybody says about, but there's DeepSeek and Gemini, and these other ones that are out there. And so, not to say that whatever ranks on Bing, whatever ranks on Google must rank on ChatGPT, for example, or DeepSeek, but these large language models, what they do is it's data sets. So what they do is they crawl, and right now I feel like we don't know what they train on. So that's why a lot of times I mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, it's they're eating their own throw up. So it's they throw something up and then they regurgitate, they eat it back up and they process it. It's a lot of dumb content that's out on the web that, like for example, Facebook's AI LLM model, they use torrent to basically torrent a bunch of books that are out on the web, and you run the LLM through them, which was completely somewhat basically illegal. But anyway, they did it. So it's like this subset of all these books that they went. Do we know which books they are? We don't know at all, right? ChatGPT has been training for years, like since 2000, and I don't know, 15 or something like that, or 17, on all sorts of data. Like they've been crawling random blogs and directories and all sorts of data. Do we exactly know what it is? And we don't know. That's the problem with a lot of these large language models, is because people perceive them to be very intelligent. We think that, and in my case, and a lot of people are starting to realize, is that it's just a fancy autocomplete. So when we put in a specific question, it'll complete it based on thousands of pages where it has crawled and seen that question and kind of averaged out what people have said. It doesn't mean that this is completely the right question. And in fact, there's a lot of hallucinations. It hallucinates all the time, meaning hallucination is the term people use when it just gives you a wrong answer. And I've seen it from my kids' homework, math homework, to things that are all sorts of different things that I put into it. I would say SEO is not dead. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think the way we're going to discover, content is going to be just two ways. One would be more like a chat version. The other one will be this still, Googling for topics and searching. That said, Google will be launching their AI. They have an AI premium product now, and they did announce that their search will change to a selector. So a selector to AI or not AI. And so if you just want to use AI, it's happy to be using that. I think it's called AI Premium 1, and it's a paid subscription now. Still learning about it. Yeah, I think it's a fun time. I think it's just you need to understand that like this new technology, it's training on data that you don't know. And so, people probably should urge these companies like DeepSeek and even Google's Gemini or OpenAI's ChatGPT to tell us what data you trained on so that we understand its biases, because a lot of times people forget. But again, this is just, it crawled a bunch of pages and it shows what it has seen with an autocomplete feature. Manipulating it is still a little bit of a black box. We don't exactly know how to front up on ChatGPT, and any of these posts that come out say we do usually are not as relevant because things change so much. We do know that, for example, there is some overlap with Bing and Google search results. So even in the search GPT functionality of ChatGPT, relatively speaking, there's other things like getting PR mentions, consistent PR mentions in authoritative publications help you and your brand with visibility in ChatGPT. At Mangools, we created something called AI Search Grader, which is a tool that allows you to put in your brand and will tell you how you're ranking on average across 10, 15, 20 different prompts related to your brand, and how your competitors are ranking. And to see how you're doing in the future, we'll probably tell you some kind of to-do items. But, even SEMRush with their AI toolkit and their visibility tool, they don't have very specific to-dos and stuff in terms of content. It's mainly like go after low search, like low competition keywords, get PR mentions, these types of things to rank on ChatGPT. So it's a little bit more of a black box. Just like when Google came around, when Google was launching, people were trying to, game the algorithm. People were just trying all sorts of stuff. So it's like a wild, wild west now. I feel like people are trying a whole bunch of stuff, trying to rank on ChatGPT.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying actually is that the emergence of AI is not making SEO obsolete, but if anything, actually now we have two methods that are competing with each other, so offering more chances. And what you said, that since we don't really know how AI is trained, that actually offers a lot of opportunities to people that are willing to test, because obviously the old blueprints don't really work anymore. So that opens up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. And you can engage in both still. I don't think SEO is going to go anywhere. I think Google is going to stay around and people will continue Googling, but ChatGPT will be a new thing and these AI models will be something new people will be using here and there.
Well, Dmitry, I think it was very interesting, and it was nice that you could share with us the, say, very deep knowledge that you have on SEO on a slightly different topic, because then obviously architects is also about inspiration. I think one of the interesting things about your story is that you had so many exits with your companies, and I guess probably most of us would be interested to ask, how does it feel to sell a company to Google? So I would like to ask you if you can tell us a little bit the story behind it, how you guys got contacted, and what are the things that you don't know when you're selling your company to Google?
Well, it's actually a really funny story because I didn't join Google and I actually walked away from it, because I didn't want to join Google to work full time. So the company was Polar Poles, and it was me, Luke, Jeff, and Winfield, and we had a designer with us as well. But that was our company makeup. And the company itself created a polling app. So what it was is just a simple polling app where you put two images together and two tags underneath them. And you'd say, Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts, Xbox 360 versus PlayStation 4. And it was a beautifully designed app. And we raised some money from Jerry Yang of Yahoo. And I was brought on as a consultant to help them get PR going. And early in the company, kind of like when we were building the product, I came up with this idea of pitching these polls to journalists and getting them embedded in these articles. And it seemed to work pretty well, because what happened was journalists all over the world started putting these into their articles. So anybody from Forbes to TechCrunch to MLB or NBA or any kind of sports magazines would put these in, the Inquirer. And we grew really fast, because these polls, they would get, you take one, there's another one, and they would keep people on the site longer. And of course, back then, this was 2014, 13, not all papers have switched over to paid access. A lot of them were earning money off ads. And so this was very relevant. The company grew very fast in terms of traffic, because a lot of people were using these polls, and it was a free tool. So I was the only marketer on the team, and the team told me, like, hey, we're getting hit up by different companies. And Luke, he was a thought leader. He wrote the book about mobile first, and the idea of mobile first was really his thing. Like, he had a followership. He traveled the world pretty much weekly. He was traveling and speaking. He was a true thought leader. He wrote lots of mobile first books, and the whole idea of creating mobile first experiences. So building for mobile and then building for the web. And so he had a lot of connections, and I was told, that we'll be selling this company, and I should join as a sort of full-time employee and maybe go through this process. And I wanted to build my own SaaS business next. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, I have a baby on the way. I have my kid about to be born. I need some security, and at the same time, I want to build my own company. So security meant, like, joining Google and potentially maybe moving to Mountain View, or maybe working from Boston, but, selling your soul for the next 2 years or 4 years, because you're going to have to vest into some stock and do some stuff for 2 years. I had been at Google many times. I worked at a design firm near the campus. We used to organize speaking events there. I've known a lot of people who worked there. I did not want to do it. Like, I just didn't want to, like the culture was fun, and like the food was great. I just didn't, like, I wanted to build my own startup. And I was thinking, gosh, 2-3 years of my life, I don't know. Like, I was calculating how much life do I have? And I'm like, hopefully until, like, I don't know, 80 or so. I was like 30s or something, and early 30s, maybe late 20s. But I was like, okay, well, I don't want to spend 2-3 years of my precious life on this, but I get to forego a huge paycheck. Now, like, I got a little bit of a pay from the founders, but just walking away, but nothing, as a big kind of exit. But I could say, hey, I was the only marketer, and there's only like 4 of us, 5 of us. So it's like a very small team. So, I helped build this company to get acquired by Google. Now, had I, taken the offer and joined, I could say, okay, well, I actually worked at Google and done all that. But I just chose the world less travel. And I think everything in my life has always been that way. I always just trying to choose something. All right, everybody's hopping on this one big ship. I'm always like by myself on this one little boat. And
Stay
so,
independent and
yeah.
enjoy freedom. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, freedom, but also instability, insecurity, not that much, like figuring out how to start your own startup again. Like, it was pretty rough waters after that acquisition and making that decision. But I think it was the right decision long term, because I built Just Reach Out, which was my next tool. It's a SaaS platform to do PR outreach. And that was sold to SEO Jet in 6 years. It took me. And then after that, in 2 years, it gets resold to Slack. People that came out of Slack, they bought them. And they've been improving that service ever since. But had I not done that, I don't know what I would have done at Google. I probably, been much more secure and stable for those 2-3 years. Less stress, but certainly way less fun.
That's freedom. There's actually, on a personal note, a lot in common with this story. And I can definitely relate to the desire to keep yourself independent and a bit of a solo rider, so to say. So yeah, I definitely understand your choice there. Would there be, like, as a follow-up question, is there anything that you have learned between your first company and your second one? Anything that you felt that you needed to do different?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, man, like, so just to continue that story, so I say no to Google, then I decide to start this startup. My son is born. I have like no consulting clients. So I'm trying to get consulting clients to like earn money so that we have money to even like afford rent. We had savings, but still. And at the same time, starting this new company, right? And so the only experience up until that point I had was when I was an assistant to that guy who did PR stuff. And then this crazy ride of like 2-3 years with this team and then just saying no. So everybody was like, all right, we'll see you later. And so then I was trying to start my own business, the software company, and I didn't have money to pay any developers or anything like that. So I was just literally pinging all my friends who wanted to just like free time, who had development help. And my friend was agreed to do this with me. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And I had no clue what he wanted to do with his life. I didn't even care. I didn't ask. He didn't ask me what I wanted to do. We were like, let's just do it. We'll just split the profits. We'll just build this PR software company. Little did I know that his goal in life in the next couple of years was to join a big company, big startup, and kind of grow with them. And like he ended up joining Coinbase. So like I didn't know. So then we got into this thing where we built like somewhat of an MVP, and we started like, I tried to market it. And then he was like, I'm leaving. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I thought we were going to build this thing. He's like, no, I actually just wanted to get a job. This was just kind of like a fun project. And I was like, gosh, what do we do with this code? Like, he's like, well, I can't let go of this code. Like, you can develop it going forward. I was like, oh my God, I don't have any money for that. Like, can you do it? He's like, no, I got a new job, you know. So we had to circumnavigate that. And then I had another guy who came over, who again was a friend, who had like a development firm. And he's like, hey, just give me like half of your company and I'll just develop the thing. Little did I know that like he didn't do anything. It was like some engineer on his team that was doing some stuff. And that relationship was very disincentivizing as well for me. And so what I quickly learned is like, hey, if you're going to have any partners and you're going to be working with anybody on anything, you better align like you're getting married with them. Like, you know, and that's what everybody's told me, but I didn't understand to the extent like getting married, like this is literally like, how does this person think about the next 5 years of his life? Like, and what, like, if he gets an offer from Google tomorrow or to, I don't know, like from Goldman Sachs for like $500,000 salary a year, would he just drop everything and leave? Or is he gonna like really see this through with me? So this was like a big awakening, trying to start my business and just trying to understand. This is my first on my own business, right? Where we were aligned. Because right up until then, I was just kind of, you know, like I was the only marketer at that company that was sold to Google. So I just kind of followed along their steps. And before that, I was the PR help. So I didn't know, but this was a really important thing to kind of underline for myself. And like, you really have to align with your partners on longer term, what you want to do with your lives.
Yeah, so you noticed there was a big difference between, say, kind of being one of the first hired and actually having to build a team yourself, like it was in your second experience.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
completely different. It's all about people. I feel like when you're running companies, it's like finding the right people. It's like the most important thing because then, you know, it makes sense. And with these, a lot of these acquisitions, that's what I found is that like this last company, Topic Ranker, which I still own a portion of, we run with Mangools. You know, I felt like I didn't have the right team in place for scaling it. And I needed like a product team I can bounce ideas off. I needed a marketing team to support me a little bit. So I was like, there's got to be, you know, holding companies that acquire SaaS companies that can provide that where the type of a person is the same as me. And I went through like a year of studying and learning and talking to all these different holding companies, and just all of them were very bureaucratic and kind of like not me. Like the personality wasn't entrepreneurship. It was like an investor who just buys a bunch of SaaS companies and holds them and looks at numbers all the time, but they don't like talk like me and engage in things like me. So it took me a while to find the team of Mangools at iTrinity to like say, all right, these people are kind of like me. They're kind of like entrepreneurs. They run these SaaS businesses themselves. There's no like this investor out. I mean, there is an investment outlook, and we certainly value analytics a lot, but they're just down to earth kind of people that are entrepreneurs. That was very refreshing. So it was like, okay, let's work with somebody like that. And that was like a quick hack to find the right team, because they have a whole team running everything. So I no longer need to find everybody's.
Brilliant. And I think you said you said something very interesting there when you said, I felt that it didn't have the right team to scale, because obviously sometimes the first team that you bring on board is not necessarily the right team to scale the company later on. So it's extremely important that either you grow in terms of skill set or you find the right people. I think it's very good advice. Well, Dmitry, it has been a brilliant conversation, and I see our time is coming to an end. Before we wrap this up, I would like to ask you, what's in the future? What kind of projects are you now busy with?
Well, I'm still focused on Topic Ranker most of the time. We're doing a whole bunch of different marketing initiatives and campaigns. It has a lot more room to grow from my standpoint. It's grown threefold, quadruple-fold in the last year. I think this year it'll do the same. So we're focused on building that majority of my time. Outside of that, I have a course called PR That Converts that teaches people how to do PR. So I have an email list of like something like 30 or 50,000 people that have subscribed to my newsletter that has become stale, basically. So my job is to get that going again this year. So I want to make sure my email list is not stale, because I've just been heads down building Topic Ranker, scaling and improving it. So yeah, get my list going, promote my course, PR That Converts, more to the list. That's my other project. And that's it, really. Small, everything else is just kids and family. But professionally, Topic Ranker has been growing so well. We have new tools we're implementing, new marketing strategies for it. I think I'll just focus on that and trying to get the list together.
Nice. What's the best way for people to stay in touch with you, or, for example, join your email list?
.com, which is my website. My wife helped me name it. It was my first company, Criminally Prolific, and it still is the main company for me. They're so prolific, it's criminals. Criminally Prolific is the name.
Nice.
So criminallyprolific.com. You'll actually see all the other episodes and podcasts and interviews I've done on it, and my blog, and a bit about me, and you can reach
So
out
we'll make
there.
sure that the link is in the episode description for everyone who wants to join the list. Well, Dmitry, I want to thank you a lot for your time. It has been a great conversation. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks for having me.